Traxxas 12? Yeah! Traxxas 12!
Usually, the very first sentence you'll hear from the list of increasingly angry British veteran soldiers is a declaration of loyalty.
This is a mistake. I am a loyal servant of the throne.
A final appeal to the beacons of joy standing before them. In the end, this vet manages to prove that they're worthy of at least some trust, given that he gave the zombies trying to eat him a taste of the old pooper scooper, but mostly for the reason that he didn't immediately shank the closest breathing loyalist upon escaping prison. Loyalty is so important to the Imperium that there's a scholum of peeps trained to blow your brains out if you so much as whisper that your starch flakes taste funny, a tactic that goes quite well until some heretic bloke waddles through the fog of war and starts a friendly chat with the front line. Darktide might show the Garden a dodgy light with its traitorous Mobian Sixth, but those aboard the Morningstar appear to be different. Incorruptible, battle-hardened warriors who have each earned the right to live longer than whoever this rascal was. Everyone knows the Guard gets things done, and maybe one day, when this overblown fiasco reaches its conclusion, there'll be some semblance of freedom within the hierarchy of the Inquisition.
You'll be lucky. Next you'll be saying that Grey Knights are real.
There's just one teensy but ever so crucial tiny little detail. Some of our rejects haven't a single allegiant bone in their body. Some of our rejects want to do the Bastion 220 run into an alleyway and never be seen again combat stance. The loose cannon veteran is one such villain. On paper, a storied guardsman who is incarcerated for some petty crime is a steal for your little Inquisition strike teams. When the steal starts stealing though, there are problems. Remember a minute or so ago when I said the first thing you'll hear is a declaration of loyalty? I lied. The actual first thing you hear them say is that they straight up murdered someone guarding provisions. Clearly, the Imperium's battlefields aren't exciting enough, nor the threat of miffed commissars, because the cannon seeks the thrill that comes with a bit of pilfering, a trait that has followed them to Tertium, even in the face of Mike Geary-induced annihilation.
Did you just loot that supply crate?
Me? No, I requisitioned resources for the cause.
Then what did you just put in your pocket?
Nothing! Your eyes are playing tricks on ya.
Loose cannon might feel a bit insulted to hear that the sacred and timeless ways with which they've kept their head all this time come down to the Emperor's favour. Being shipped to the Merryland of Atoma is a pretty good scenario when you consider alternative punishments for such outwardly self-serving individuals.
Provost's gone! Looting season's open again!
Although it would be insane to call the continued survival of this human being anything other than miraculous, a real lucky person wouldn't be embracing Nuggle's finest every day. The only gift this long-winded lifespan has bestowed upon the loose cannon is an unholy amount of material to feed their trench humour.
Oh, that's a lungful. Smell like that killed half me old regiment. Sorry, sir.
Unlike zealots, and perhaps the odd psyker, the veteran personalities have a less sheltered experience with the corporeal enemies of humanity. Of course, this experience does not translate to gameplay in any significant way, so it's often warped into cautionary tales, or in the case of the loose cannon, used as a way to taunt their idiotic teammates.
They may be heretics, but they're working as a team.
I thinketh not. Thou merely perceiveth their ragged flailings as intentful.
Look, you say they're damned, I believe it. The soul's your business, soldiering's mine. And I say they're working together to knock your carking block off.
Thou maketh a good point. I shall yieldeth to thy expertise.
Having to work with someone whose combat experience probably amounts to a few Cathedrum scavrats might make you seem quite accomplished. However, even if I cast aside the odd exaggerated comparison, Loose Cannon's antics sure sound impressive.
Seen them with my own eyes. Big carcass, spikes and skulls. Dead giveaway.
Yes, tales of vague encounters with Chaos Space Marines await those who pick the personality, as well as orcs, Eldari, Cornite cultists,
Chain stealers,
exterminators, and finally, before they were tithed, it is said that they had a promising career as a hive ganger. I don't think they expected some idiot to tally up these encounters with other factions, nor to attribute these many lines to a single version of the Loose Cannon, since that would make them a valid contender for Morrow's spot in the rumour engine. The similarities don't end there either, since you can loosely connect the two as victims of a foul memory. One of them because centuries in a broken stasis tube and borderline malicious cybernetic tampering isn't good for your brain, and the other because they probably never studied the regulations of the Guard in the first place.
Something 7! Kill it!
I suppose screaming obscure identification codes at an endless list of monstrosities is not a hobby for everyone. And besides, the guard handbooks don't tell anyone how to deal with traumatized Cadians, so they might as well be useless.
So, you ever fight alongside Creed?
Saw him once. Glimpse of a greatcoat and Kel by his side. That's all. Seems like a lifetime ago.
I heard he was the best.
Can't say.
You reckon there's any truth to the rumors of him surviving Cadia's fall?
Can't say.
Nice chat. Let's do it again sometime.
This conversation, if you can call any chat with the cutthroat a conversation, might be one of the only times the canon has shown genuine interest in furthering a dialogue with no strings attached. Seemingly every other sentence is designed to test the waters, or more accurately, the patience of whoever they are speaking to. There are a few exceptions to this behavior. For example, you don't need to imagine the reaction if loose cannon poked fun at Commissar Duquesne.
The Emperor sees your failure.
Do I care? Let me think. No.
One particularly cruel aspect of Grendel's Inquisition is that while we roam free in the rat maze known as the Morningstar Hub, some lunatic with delusions of grandeur has found their way into the rodent ecosystem, and to top it off, they're one of the ones with a spooky hat. The best way to exploit the laws of the Imperium are to know them, and commissars are an especially easy rule set to remember. It's one thing to share a sense of camaraderie about stuff like this with your guard fellows, but to remind them of that fear and then rag on them for it is another thing entirely.
Back when you were in the guard, I'm guessing you were the type to suck up to the commissar, weren't you?
I was not. Anyway, you can't suck up to commissars. They're made of stone.
Aha! I knew it! You did try to suck up.
I'll leave it out. I respect authority, that's all.
I respect authority, that's all. Please, commissar, may I shine your boots with my tongue?
Oh.
Anyway, back when you were in the guard.
Oh, will you cut that out?
Despite surviving for what seems like a supernatural length of time, this glorious representative of the Militarum is still far from a model soldier, who, when deployed, prefers to help other soldiers model instead.
Hold that pose, heretic.
This Inquisition gig has enabled them to revert back to formula, back to a slightly less constrained lifestyle as an avatar of mischief. One thing that even the most morally corrupt rejects can agree with is that Ogryns are awesome. All the veteran personalities love the big fellas, and it's likely a dynamic they were used to in the guard. Loose cannon and their inability to filter a single thought that goes through their head is far less coy about why Ogryns are worth keeping around. Not getting shot because a wall of meat is charging in front of you is one reason. However, having a life-saving idiot bodyguard isn't very lucrative, at least not directly. If one were to accidentally manipulate the exceptionally easy to manipulate Ogryn kind into nabbing a few things from Brunt's corner shop, or the sea of loot down below, Cannon might finally be able to afford an extra recolored hat or two.
You look like a canny fella, big man.
I am. Everybody says so. Wait, what does canny mean?
You know, smart, opportunistic, always got an eye on the prize.
What prize? I should have prize. After all, I am canny.
Remember, this is the same person who says they'd like to bugger off in range of the Inquisition Voxcoms, and although authoritative monsters like Rannick, or less metaphorical monsters out there, have had every chance to stop the loose cannon's madness, none of them have succeeded. As with any immortal character, eventually the poor bastards are going to have to deal with a bucket load of survivor's guilt. I don't think all of Cannon's little sociopathic tendencies are the result of years of misery in the guard, but it's a decent guess.
Better to leave the dead behind. And then you drink copiously.
While the quieter moments are great for rare retrospective lines about how all your mates are dead, louder moments are where the loose cannon seems to thrive. Something in there is obviously broken, since they react to deadly skirmishes the same way I reacted to the Bound for Duty patch notes.
Woohoo!
Loose cannon takes up a good 90% of those lines where the delicate cadence of a soldier in full fuck-it we bull mode is needed.
Conscript! In confidence, I order you to tell me what cocking means.
I'm not sure I can do that. It's one of those, you know, context-sensitive words.
Don't try to obfuscate.
I'm not much of a trier. I prefer outright success.
We're mighty carkers, ain't we?
I'd rather not report you for offensive language, but be assured I will if I must.
Oh, good carking luck with that.
I'm running out of ink from all the profanity reductions I'm having to make.
Better find some Karkin more then, hadn't ya? Karkar!
The introduction of the arbitrators was a test of resolve, and every reject passed with flying colours. Loner Psyker never stopped teasing, Loose Cannon never stopped stealing, and Brawler Ogryn never stopped being clueless about what the hell is going on. They also helped to illustrate that some of the oppressive space cops are capable of trying to socialise, and if they can do it, why not this scoundrel? Let's just say that Loose Cannon is certainly more lovable for the player than the characters, who have to deal with someone whose personal mantra sounds a bit like this.
I like to keep it squeaky clean. That way I can steal, murder, cheat, and other stuff as much as I want.
But I digress. Everything seems to point towards the idea that while the canon has some social skills, there are far better things to do than try to please our previously covered rejects.
Gotta admit, you lot are growing on me, and not like that fungus on the refectory pipes.
Alas, I find myself surrounded by such petty, tiny souls.
Oi! I heard that!
What is that whining sound?
I heard that and all!
There it is again. I should have Crawl check my ears for mites.
Now that I've reached this point where I've covered the main quirks of the canon, I've also realised that I could go on forever. As much as it would be fun, I don't think it will be very healthy. I will say that this is not the end of the Loose Cannon. Like, this isn't... I mean, it's the end of the vid, but you're going to see them again in other personality vids, so this is, you know, it's a series. They're not gone for good. And also, I'm not going to stop destroying the flow of my videos with dumb voice lines, and that will never change. I can't help myself. So, hopefully I did some justice to this insane character, and, well, I'll see you in the next unpunctual disaster.
And where was the God Emperor when I was neck deep in my own platoon's blood? Tell me that!
Oh, you know, just sitting about slowly dying. Dumbass.
Hang on! Are you scared?